So we really used this concept as kind of probes to provoke reactions and understand which were the basic pillars that we had to build the experience on. So the first one was about celebrating the content. BT was themselves, they were putting all the miniatures of the movies and programs that you could watch very small in the UI. There was never a big image, like if they were shy of the content that they were putting on the platform. So we kind of reverted that because they had great content. They were just kind of not used to, because having great content was something new for them as well. The second part, it was blending live and video on demand. That was one of their unique assets. So we started messing up and enabling you, while you were watching a linear channel, to showcase that maybe you can watch also something related to that in the video on demand. And while you were browsing the video on demand catalog, to showcase you that there are content live in that moment related to sport, for example, that you can link to. So really starting to build of something that was a complexity, an asset for differentiation. And the third one, it was to build discovering page. This was one of the biggest pain points that I had from the previous design that I had. People were not exploring the content. Exploring in a very traditional way, menu, submenu, sub-submenu for the category, and then maybe search, is something that is completely against the experience on TV, where even exploring is part of your entertainment time. So we broke the rules, and we brought all the navigation in page as if there were blocks of content. We were just halfway the journey, by the way. So it looks like it passed a long time, but it was just the 5th week of the program. In front of us, we had the challenging journey of bringing a concept, this one direction that we've built together, to something that was a concrete system that was ready to be implemented. And you might say, we worked very agile in order to do that. No way. So, as I was saying, it is a very traditional organization. So if you want to make these programs work, you need to adapt and stretch a little bit, but you have to work within the organization that you're collaborating with. So the workflow that we worked with was super traditional. We had wireframes done in Axure, explanation of how things were working done in Axure. We had to install Axure. Axure is not a frog. Axure is not one of the standard softwares. So we have... now we have Sketch for everything, but we had to install Axure to some of the machines. And then we worked in Photoshop in order to create the visual design. Very heavy. Try to imagine 4K size of a TV. We had this amazing infinite gigabytes of file in order to be managed, but that's the way in which they were working. We used a little bit Keynote to create some simulation of the experience on TV, because at that time, InVision was not yet supporting the TV screen resolution. They were only doing web, tablet, and mobile. So we used Keynote to prototype a little bit. And then we used Zeppelin, and that was a big innovation, to start passing the information to the developers. And we were using standard emails to track everything and all the feedback. But nevertheless, this was a way to make them comfortable and give them outcomes that were valuable and usable within the organization. And how we approach the design. So probably this is very typical for projects in which you work with content, that you don't design the pages themselves. So you design the building blocks of the pages. You design all the states of the pages. And then you start designing what are the aggregations of those pages, the rules that brings the content together. So we started building a set of elements that were enabling different possible assemblement according to some business logic that we were helping them to shape. What came out, and that hit actually the market in the time frame that we defined, it was a radically different experience for BT, which on one side was really pushing the boundaries of the user experience on a new level, and on the other side was strongly creating, it was like a positioning statement for the BT TV brand. For the first time, they were coming out loud with a very strong identity that was built on colorful use of the color that they have in the globe logo, with a strong presence of the images. So it was really kind of a coming out for their service on the market. But that was just the beginning. And probably that was the easiest step to be done as we were establishing the relationship together with them. So here it came, one of the most complex moments in the project. And actually, those were different briefs, so every time we had to repeat the collaboration together with BT. So in the moment in which you start thinking of what the ecosystem in the future could be, what are the next steps? There are elements of that that are known. We knew that we were about to redesign the app for mobile, tablet, then the website responsive from desktop to small devices. But we also knew that there were a kind of a plethora of other devices that we were about to cover in the future. So how do you approach this kind of scale in an organization, again, as complex as BT? So approaching to scale, and this is, again, this is a quote from their brief in which everyone is saying, we tried the dream of every designer to design something super custom that takes the maximum of the power and potential of every device that you're designing for. We tried to be bespoken, but it didn't work out. It didn't work out. Why? Because there is an issue that is related to the sustainability. Sustainability of an ecosystem that you cannot delimit and that probably will keep expanding over time. So considering the aspect of sustainability, that impacts on two layers. So one layer is about the way in which you design it, and the other layer is about the way in which you start thinking that that could be in the future maintained. So we started working around, and we pitched and we worked in this concept of radical responsiveness. So it was not only approaching the design from a responsive perspective in terms of how the design moves from a big screen to a small screen, so how the tiles might rearrange. It was also that was part of the picture. But it was also about how you can apply the same logic, not only within the web, but within an ecosystem of applications that are running on different operating systems. So what are the elements that are known varying across all this complex ecosystem, and what are the elements that you need to adapt and make change in order to accommodate the minimum of variation specific to each of the platforms that you were delivering into. And this is true from a, let's say, interaction modalities perspective. How is the menu managed? How are the filters managed? How do you invoke the login? So we know how the dialogues are appearing. These are things that are kind of very native and very specific to the platform that you need to understand how you can accommodate. But this also speaks to the layer of the features. So not all the features are relevant on all the devices. So if you think that you can, for example, if you think that you can manage through the program guide, where you see all the things that you can watch in the week, in the days, in the channels, by default, you can be able to record things from each one of those. But then, due to some copyright and legal issues, you cannot watch them on all the platforms. So you might say, shall we put everywhere the possibility to record, but then you can only watch in the main TV screen that you have in the living room, or it does not make sense to make you record from the mobile if you can only watch from another device. So this concept of radical responsiveness was not only meant to exist in terms of the design, but it was also meant to be in terms of the features. So we started working with this concept of functional-based, I defined, we would say sprint-based based on use case, in which we were taking a use case and designing that across all the platforms. So we were saying, how do you search? Search and find a content on all the platforms that you have. So it was a bit challenging at the beginning, but then enabled us to speed up so much in the later stage of the work, because we were starting to build our assets. So we managed to deliver to them a design system that was defined, but then it was able to scale as they were including additional platforms moving on.